Hello, we are Team 1 from Section A, and in today's presentation we will be talking about the current situation concerning Russian-Western tensions and future trends. In this presentation, we will first cover the origin of tension between Russia and the West. After a brief explanation, we would like to introduce our methodology. Moving on, we will be sharing the analysis on the current situation and our interpretation. Finally, we would like to show the trends and pose some questions for the audience. As the American astronomer Carl Sagan once said, you have to know the past to understand the present. We feel it's extremely important to highlight a few key moments, but do note that this is an extremely short and fast-paced summary, which tries to highlight a few key moments post-World War II, but doesn't include all. These events have transformed the once-known allies into what we know of today. Firstly, NATO was founded in 1949, which was created as a response to the threat posed by the Soviet Union. This was followed by the Warsaw Pact in 1955 in response to the induction of West Germany in NATO and to balance the power of NATO. In 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis put a huge dent in the relationship between the West and the Soviet Union. In 1991, the fall of the Berlin Wall and consequently the end of the USSR gave birth to what we know as Russia today. The 21st century didn't see any improvement in the relationship between these forces, with the Georgia-Russia War and Ukraine-Russia conflict only worsening tensions. Now that we have an overview of the past, we would like to take a closer look at the current situation concerning Russian-Western tensions. Our research quickly showed it is complicated. There are a variety of issues that cause tensions, and then also what actually is the West. To analyze the current situation, we developed a framework consisting of three actors, as you can see on the outside circle: US and EU as the West, as well as Russia. We decided to differentiate between the US and the EU, since tensions with Russia and their responses vary significantly. On the inside, you see the key areas of tension: politics, economy, and military. What is important to note is that even though we look at them separately in our analysis, they are overlapping and interconnected. However, we acknowledge our approach also comes with disadvantages. First, we oversimplify the very complex situation for this discussion, so please bear in mind, in reality, it is even more complex than this. Second, tensions are rarely limited to one of the areas we highlighted, so the separation is somewhat artificial. Last, one could also define the West as more detailed, but we esteemed a good mix between abstraction and accuracy by focusing on the two major powers in the West. Firstly, we will look at the political sphere and the main events in recent years and the reactions of Russia and the West to these events. Following Trump's win in the 2016 elections, it was later revealed that Russian agents had allegedly committed cybersecurity crimes, including the hacking of the Democratic Party's emails, in order to help Trump win the election. While President Trump was more sympathetic to Russia, after Biden was elected in 2020, he called Putin a killer, to which Russia responded by recalling Russian diplomats from Washington. However, US elections are not the only elections that Russia is alleged to have attempted to influence. In 2020, the European Commission identified Russian disinformation campaigns as the EU's greatest threat. Most of these campaigns attempt to polarize society within EU member states and question the democratic legitimacy of the EU. Russia has also been accused of funding far-right parties in countries such as France and Hungary. The reaction within the EU has varied between states. However, the recent rejection of a proposal in the EU to strengthen ties with Russia implies that the majority of the EU are beginning to see Russia as a threat and are moving away from the perception of Russia as a trade partner. Finally, in August 2020, Alexei Navalny, the main opposition leader to Putin, was poisoned. Navalny was treated at a hospital in Germany, and the US, EU, and UK all sanctioned Russia as a result. Comments made by Biden and Putin in the media show a clear difference in ideologies between Russia and the West. While the West thinks Russians are lacking in human rights and also obstructing democracy, Russia views the United States as imposing their values on the rest of the world and seems to hint at them being exceptionalists. When it comes to the economic sphere, we would like to focus mainly on the following. Recently, the US and Germany have reached an agreement for the completion of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Nord Stream is a natural gas pipeline across the Baltic Sea, connecting Russia to Germany, which aims to secure the European energy market. After signing the agreement, the two parties made it clear that if Russia decides to misuse the pipeline in order to obtain any political advantage, several sanctions will be applied, including restrictions to Russia's exports within Europe in the energy sector. Another important topic is Russia's recent attempt to block the Black Sea. In April 2021, Russia announced that international ships would face restrictions when trying to enter some parts of the Black Sea in the following 6 months. One of the affected areas of these restrictions is the connection between the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov, which also happens to be one of the most important export channels for Ukraine. Both the US and the EU consider Russia's actions to go against the basis of international law, since they are one-way policies aimed at political gains. On the other hand, Russia believes that Western democracies are trying to interfere in what they consider to be their domestic affairs. Therefore, these attempts require action from the Russian government in order to protect the country and its citizens. On the military side, we have first of all the Russian invasion of Donbass and Ukraine after democratic and pro-European protests ousted the then President Yanukovych. Crimea was then annexed with a referendum widely denounced as fraudulent by the international community. Tensions and skirmishes are still present in Donbass today, with Russian volunteers supported by the Russian army present in the zone. On the side of Syria, Russia amped its political support of the country by providing military support starting in September 2015. A month later, Putin and Assad met in Russia to reaffirm their commitment to protect the Syrian regime, marking a strong stance on the matter. What's more, when Donald Trump ordered the end of US troops in Syria, Russia quickly tried to occupy old US bases to consolidate their position in the region. NATO's expansion into Eastern Europe is also a topic on which Russia is very concerned. The organization is currently in talks with Ukraine and Georgia about possible entry into NATO. Finland is also considered a potential candidate in the future due to increased Russian military activity close to its border. Russia sees this as a direct threat to their ongoing territorial disputes and general ambitions in Europe and Caucasus. The US's response to Russia's actions have been more aggressive than Europe, who have tried to remain cordial and avoid infuriating Russia. Russia, on the other hand, sees those responses and trying to undermine their protection of Russian speakers and allies worldwide, and believes the West is undermining their legitimate interests. Now let's talk about what this means in terms of future trends. Across all three spheres of politics, economics, and military, the following trends are present. On the one side, Russia has taken both an aggressive yet alleged defensive stance in its actions in order to ensure that its ambitions are realized. In order to recover its importance on the main stage, Russia has therefore tried to interfere as much as possible in conflicts where they have stakes, such as Syria, Ukraine, or the US election. Their actions have also been able to weaken Western democracies efficiently, with their support of European far-right parties and collusion with the Trump administration. On the other side completely, the United States have tried to recover from the Trump years and are now pursuing an increasingly aggressive stance against Russia. However, this stance has not been met by an increase in support of the EU, but rather a condemnation of Russia's actions and President Putin, while it redirects many of its efforts towards combating China's rise in power. The European Union has instead tried to keep a cautious policy towards Russia, as it condemns the actions of the Federal Republic, but does not wish to lose the economic benefits of receiving natural resources from Russia, especially in those times of energy shortage and uncertainty over the future of Nord Stream. This means that it tries to survive using less threatening tools against its big neighbor, while having to now deal with a more distant US that focuses more on China rather than the ex-Cold War giant. In this presentation, we have covered an array of topics from the origin of tension between Russia and the West, our analysis of the situation, and possible future trends. Now, as we mark the end of our presentation, we would like to ask you to discuss in the forum with us, in the coming years, are we heading towards a new age Cold War? And if so, what shape will this new age Cold War take, considering new technological advancements and forms of warfare? Thank you for watching our presentation, and we look forward to hearing your thoughts on this matter.